should we go into the main episode?
Let's do it. Let's talk about clefairy.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
So, Tom, clefairy, have any spicy hot takes on
Right,
clefairy?
right, here we go. So I've definitely had a clefairy. Um, I like. I remember thinking, oh, it's quite cool that you would like find it in Mount Moon. It felt quite rare. I feel like there's a fair bit of like lore about it in like when you're in Mount
Yeah.
Moon, and then they like start turning up. So like I say, I've definitely had one, but I don't feel like I had it for very long. Now it's funny that you should say spicy takes on it because I don't know if you found this, but when I was like doing the drawing of it, um,
Mm.
I kind of started out with like the spiky ears, and it made me go, do you know what? I can see how, because the well known thing about Clefairy is that it was originally going to be the mascot instead of Pikachu, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like going, okay, there's like a lot of similarities, and it wouldn't surprise me, as after what we found out, well, what you told me during the Pikachu episode, they didn't always have those ears. That
Yeah.
it would not surprise me if those ears came from Clefable and Clefairy
Yeah.
rather than the other way around. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, in both of the instances when I was doing the drawings, I was like, I feel like I am just basically drawing the Pikachu design here. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah,
They are very similar.
yeah,
But I do feel like there are a lot of similarities between a lot of Gen 1 Pokemon. And I don't know if it's just because they were limited in terms of what they could do in sprites. But like Clefairy's tail looks a lot like Squirtle's tail.
yeah,
Like its little curly hair looks a lot like Jigglypuff's curly hair. Like there are a lot of Saf is right. It's because they are all fat. All of the Pokemon in Gen 1 are fat and I love them for it. Um, but like I feel like there are a lot of kind of reused stylistic choices that I don't mind
mm,
because I feel like none of them feel overused, none of them feel too common, none of them makes me feel like, well, this is just a copy of this thing but a different color,
yeah.
even though like it that is may well be why they all look so similar. Um, but I think yeah, the more like I have to pay attention to it, the more I notice those similarities, and I don't care. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I'm not complaining about it. But it just did it. It just occurred to me because and I probably wouldn't have picked up on it had we not been drawing the images. But I was like, right, the spiky ears and the body shape, it's very similar. And like I say, it genuinely would not surprise me if it was that Pikachu took the inspiration from Clefairy rather than the other way around.
yeah. That doesn't surprise me at all. That I could see that being true.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so that's kind of my main thing. Also, as well, I mean, we mentioned before about the Clefairy episode. I think that is quite iconic. Um,
Yeah, it's a really memorable one.
yeah,
I like Clefairy is canonically the first Pokemon from space. I think Oswald is a fun character. I think it's a really interesting bit of like you know, oh, there's so much the world doesn't know about Pokemon, of like Ash being like Ash and the gang, like seeing something exciting and rare.
mm,
And I do feel like that episode being really interesting, and properly diving into Clefairy's like story and lore
yeah,
makes it stand out because there are a lot of Pokemon that like their episode will be about their trainer's story and they're along for the ride,
mm,
um, rather than the Pokemon getting stuck into like the Pokemon itself. Or if it's like a battle-based story, there won't be so much like seeing the Pokemon in the wild. But I think Clefairy has a very memorable personality because of this episode. Um,
um, well, I think again, it's only now that we're kind of talking about it. The other thing that I imagine has happened with Clefairy is that, similar to the female Nidoran, I think that it unfortunately gets de-emphasized long term, because of
Yeah,
Pikachu and probably
yeah,
because of Jigglypuff. Um,
yeah. Clefairy does feel like a Jigglypuff and a Pikachu had a baby.
mm, yes, and they don't. Like I say, so I feel like it's it's probably going to long term be affected by that. But there must have been some form of what's what I'm looking for. It's like like the creators must have had like a fondness for it for them to create such a memorable episode for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, regardless, like it wouldn't surprise me if that kind of like the space thing and all that kind of lore was just crystallized in that episode, and that's part of why it is so memorable. But that's because they had to basically abandon it as a Pokemon once Pikachu and
yeah.
Jigglypuff, yeah, once they come along.
But that's the thing. I feel like the Clefairy episode was so good. Um, that like maybe they were like, well, Clefairy was gonna be the main Pokemon, the main character, Ash's partner, and then we didn't need to really write a backstory for it then because it was gonna be the whole story was its story. And then they were like, fuck, now we've got to fit Clefairy in somewhere. And then came up with this sick episode where it's got a great
Mm.
backstory, but it doesn't really come up again. Like they have tucked it away, hidden it up in the mountains so that it has an excuse not to come back too much. But also, um, you know, um, like it does mean it's a little bit like if they'd done more space-based stuff, it
Yeah,
would be really cool to see Clefairy more. I think it would have been really cool when they did like the legendaries that are canonically also from space. I think if they had some kind of relationship with Clefairies, even if they're just in the background a bit, that they could have been really cool and fun.
yeah, totally.
Um,
Like like why is it that like Dialga and Palkia, Dialga and Palkia,
yeah.
like why is it that like they should really, given the law, have like Clefairies as like their minions?
Yeah, yeah, right. That'd be so cool.
Yeah,
Um, like I feel like there's a there could be a really fun way to like tie all of these Pokemon with not even similar, but just slightly overlapping lore, um, uh, into each other's stories that I feel like is a missed opportunity in many respects.
yeah, yeah. But again, I think that's part of that is that there has been like a conscious de-emphasis of it, and like I know it is ridiculous that the reason is that it is pink.
Yeah, that is apparently why it wasn't gonna be Ash's Pokemon because they said they wanted it to be like neutral so that it didn't look like a gendered show. And if Ash was a boy, it would look girly Clefairy was if Clefairy was the main one because it's pink, which I think is fucking horse shit.
Mm,
But like I also know what 90s little boys were like. Like
yeah,
I can see them being like, oh, the girly shit with
yeah.
the boy and his pet fairy, man.
But
I can
like
definitely see that.
But that is a thing as well about like so the reason why SpongeBob SquarePants is yellow is for exactly the same reason that
Mm,
because there is there's pink, there's green, there's blue sponges, but they were like yellow is more of a neutral color, so that's
mm.
why SpongeBob is
Yellow is
yellow.
the non-binary color.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. There we go. Confirmed. I'm always learning on this podcast. I say that all the time. Um, but yeah, I'll tell you what. There's one other thing as well. So this has been confirmed that at one point in time there was meant to be. So you know how there was Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, and then Pokemon Yellow. That at one stage there was going to
Hmm.
be a Pokemon Pink.
Was there?
Yeah, so you'd have been followed around by a Clefairy rather than a Pikachu.
Was there?
Yes, but it was very very early in development. It got dropped.
Yeah, I was gonna say that can't have been one that got particularly far because like um It's a fan-made Pokemon Pink on romhacking.net.
Yeah.
But I think so it adds new features and types to the original Pokemon Blue, which is interesting. But yeah, apart from that, there's just yeah, an unfinished game. Yeah.
But yes, I mean, maybe I've made that up. Maybe I've made that up, but I'm sure I've not. That there was at one point in
No,
time a yellow and a pink.
there's a Game Rant article about it. And apparently some Pokemon Yellow source code hints that it did have a companion game. Um, uh, but there's not a lot of not like most of it is speculation outside of that.
Yes, yes. Like I
Um,
say, I'm sure that yeah, they found in the code that there was meant to be a companion game, and the theory is that it was meant to be
yeah.
pink, which may well have been Clefairy because Clefairy
Yeah,
at that point was
I
the
think it makes I was gonna say it makes sense it was Clefairy, but also I think Jigglypuff had more of a role in the show because obviously it followed Ash and team around. And I'm
yeah
genuinely can't believe no one even bothered to catch it and train it. Um, so if it had been Jigglypuff to match which Pokemon had more screen time in the show, that wouldn't have surprised me either.
yeah
But I don't know. Who knows? Not me.
yes. Well, you could genuinely make an argument for both. You could make an argument for Jigglypuff, or you could go like I'm sure if I'm right in the manga they did have Clefairy as the mascot for a little while.
Yeah.
So if you are like, okay, so this again because it happened so early in development, it's like, okay, so both of them follow the anime story, or this one follows the anime story and this one follows the manga's story.
Yeah. I guess like at that time they weren't really sure it was going to take off
Mm,
because like they did have like multiple pillars of marketing that all intersected to promote each other.
yeah.
Like they had the games, they had merchandising, they had the manga, they had the anime, and they had the tragically failed newspaper strip.
Oh yes, you've shown me that in real life.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh, I need to.
you've got a full on piece of Pokemon history
I do.
that was so rare that when I was round Kirsty's house and she showed it to me, I put it into eBay and there was not a single copy of it on eBay. So you could be a millionaire right now.
I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But um uh I highly doubt it, but well, you never know. Some people will pay for any old shit, won't they?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, on that note, if you'd like to follow us on Patreon, that that'd be really useful.
Because we are not millionaires.
Nope.
Um,
And we're looking for people who are going to pay for any old shit.
but
So
yeah, did you ever have a Clefairy on your team?
I did, but I don't think will have had it for very long, and I'll tell you for why. I think that Clefairy suffers. I mean, I'll probably mention this like into more detail for the Clefable episode. That I think it really suffers from not having a third evolution, and I know that it technically does, but I'm not so sure I class the baby Pokemon as like a starter stage.
Yeah, yeah, because obviously at this point in time, if we're thinking of it as like Gen 1, it doesn't have a third evolution. It is two stage. And I imagine when we come to look at the stats, it's going to be reflected there.
Yeah,
Um, but who knows?
yeah, um,
I feel like both Clefable and Wigglytuff were given pretty tanky stats. But I also feel like that's to make up for the fact that quite a cute Pokemon became like kind of derpy.
mm,
Because I feel like Jigglypuff and Clefairy are both cute,
yeah,
so you bond with them. And then like I feel like Clefable and Wigglytuff just aren't as cute. And I feel like it's like when it was War Turtle, Ivysaur, Charmeleon, they were allowed to be derpy because they were awkward teenagers that became cool, powerful adults. Clefable and Wigglytuff are very much stuck in their derp years.
Yeah, yeah,
And I feel like I don't mind that because like not all Pokemon can be beasts. They don't all need to be, but I do feel like I don't mind not evolving my Jigglypuff or my Clefairy because like they're kind of ugly. Not
yeah,
ugly, but like compared to the cuteness of the first stage.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like I'd be more likely to keep my Jigglypuff because of the show than with Clefairy, where I just whack a Moonstone on it and then whack it in the box. Um,
Yeah.
I mean,
It, watch us find out later on when we do the Clefable stuff that it's actually a fucking beast to
yeah.
fight with, and we've just been underrating it because it's like derpy looking.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that is the case, and I'll tell you for why. Because so I'm going to sound like an old man Pokemon fan here. I've never really understood Fairy type.
I get fairy type in the sense that from a competitive perspective, dragon types were too powerful.
Yeah,
Which, like in the first generation, that just means Dragonite is too powerful.
yeah,
Um, but and like there weren't enough kind of Pokemon that could stand up to it, um, like without them doing something overpowered. So I guess I get it, but I don't get some of them. I feel like some of them are weird. But again, maybe that's the boomer in me being like, back in my day.
well, you see, for me, it is slightly more of a boomery thing in that, and I do this as well with some of the stuff that was introduced in Gen 2. Um, like, when I get Steel type, I'm always like, is fire bad against this? Is fire not good against? Is, like, fire good against this? And it's the same with Fairy type, where it's like, for some reason, it just will not go in. Like, what Fairy type's good for, what Fairy type's bad for, in terms of, like, the only thing that really sticks in is that it's good against dragon types. And I'm guessing that when we come to look at the stats for Clefable, the fact that it's had fairy type added is going to be like, okay, because it's got fairy type, this is like, it's now like competitively viable, XYZ. But
Yeah.
I'm guessing before that happened, it would have been like, no one would have bothered with it.
Yeah. Because I feel like in terms of normal types in the first generation, you've got a lot of pretty good ones. Like you get Rattata really early on and Raticate learn some decent-ish moves.
Yeah.
Like again, I wouldn't keep it to the end because you also get like handed a Snorlax, which is a beast.
Yeah.
Um, Tauros is right there. Um, like if you are patient in the Safari Zone, you've got a Chansey available to you, which I feel like is in the same kind of wheelhouse as Clefable and Wigglytuff,
Yeah.
um, but is like rarer and stands out more as being like the tanky one, I think.
Mm.
So if you've got the energy, you really want that type of normal style Pokemon on your team, like hold out for a Chansey. But I've always been someone who avoids normal like the plague because while they can do certain things, my strategy effectively amounts to using super effective moves.
Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah.
Like type advantage, take advantage of it, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Um, and so I would avoid normal because normal is not super effective against anything, but it does have a number of weaknesses.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'm not wasting my time on this shit if I can't super effective something.
Yeah. Well, I've got two reasons why I know I wouldn't have used Clefairy very much. So the first one
Hmm.
is, if I'm correct, it can learn Sing.
Yes.
which is a move that I very much can see the value of and could see the value of back when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd be more likely to get a Jigglypuff for that because that's like
Yeah.
it's giving.
It's Jigglypuff's signature move.
Yeah. Um, but the other reason why I know that I will have moved on very quickly from Clefairy is I've never been a fan of Metronome.
I was gonna say metronome because um in the show, I think metronome is one of Clefairy's signature
Yeah,
moves. And later on it does become Togepi's signature move
yeah,
after Togepi hatches. But metronome like uses a randomly selective move.
yeah,
So when in the show, right, it always pulled out something cool,
yeah,
and exciting and necessary and useful. And in the game, it randomly pulls out a move, and most moves are shit. I don't like not having control over the move I'm about to do.
yeah,
It could be a move that my opponent is immune to. It could be a move that does absolutely sweet fuck all for my strategy,
yeah,
which again is very simple. If someone can build a strategy around using metronome, good for them because I'm not fucking trying to figure out how to use that in a way that's at all effective.
yeah. And I've also got a little theory about Metronome, which is so Metronome becomes Togepi's like signature move on the show, and it would not surprise me if they were like, okay, what do we go for? Pikachu, Clefairy, right? And I bet you they were like brainstorming ideas, and then they were like, right, we're going with Pikachu, and I bet you after a little while they introduced Togepi, and then they were like, right, well, if Togepi has got Metronome, we can use all of the ideas that we had for Clefairy that we would have used for Clefairy in the show now, and not have to put a Clefairy back in it.
Mm, yeah, I can see that because Togepi is also not a million miles away from the Clefairy design, is it?
Nope, nope. I once won a Togepi from a claw machine. And yeah, I used
Ah.
to have a whole bunch of Pokemon that I won from claw machines. I used to be very good at them. And then my dog ate all but two of them.
Oh no.
Yeah, annoyingly, right? They left the Mew. There was a Mew in there, and it's like, well, surely out of all of these ones that you wanted to rip apart, the one that looks like a cat should have been the one that you went for.
Oh, bless.
But yes, I mean, I'm a fan of a Togepi, but Togepi's episode can come in about 14 years when we finally get round to him.
Mm-hmm.
So, my question to you is, what's your memories of Togepi? Have you... what am I doing? What are your memories of Clefairy? Have you had a Clefairy?
No, I've done the same. I get it, I evolve it, I chuck it in the box, it's in my decks, I'm done.
Yeah.
I've never really bothered to have one on my team, so uh, never mind.
Yeah. Well, on that note, should we have a look at the deck entries?
Let's do that.
Right, let's do it. There it is there. Fantastic little image. Again, very, very Pikachu-like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, now I'm even looking at it, like, it's even got, like, the different coloured cheeks. Right, here we go. Pokedex entries. Okie doke. So, my guess for this is that it's going to be quite good for the first two generations, then it's going to get lazy as they de-emphasise it. Red and blue. Its magical and cute appeal has many admirers. It is rare and found only in certain areas. What a boring
Best.
description.
Yeah, it doesn't tell you much about it, but I guess that leans into the idea of it being mysterious in the first generation.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I can see that. Um, and then yellow, adored for their cute looks and playfulness. They are thought to be rare as they do not appear often. I wonder if they'll stick with that. You know, like it being like rare. Um,
Yeah, I feel like that's quite a good one because like it it's also quite it would be good if it was the mascot because it's like right, so this is a popular Pokemon and they're making a big deal out of how popular it is, but also making it feel special because you have one and not a lot of people do. Because like although Pikachu was not always easy to catch in the show, not the show, in the games, because it was like it didn't have a very common it didn't show up very much.
yeah,
um the Pokedex and the show made it like really hammered home that it was a very common Pokemon. Like loads of people have Pikachu, and that Ash's one just happens to be special because it's uh weirdly powerful compared to other Pikachu.
mm,
So I guess this is kind of like the foil to that, where Pikachu is really common and Ash has a special one. Clefairy are really rare, and you're special just because you have one.
yeah. And I tell you, that could actually link into it being the mascot for Pokemon Pink. Should there have been a Pokemon Pink?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So
Because if I'm right, you can't catch other Pikachu in Pokemon Yellow.
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. And then we've got. I feel like this is quite interesting for Stadium. Because of its adorable nature, it is in high demand as a pet. However, it is rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I feel like we've not come across one of these where they're like, okay, yes, this is something that people use as a pet before.
Mm.
Um, however, it's rare and found only in limited areas. I'm guessing that we're going to see similar for that with Growlithe later on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I quite like gold. The moonlight that it stores in the wings on its back apparently gives it the ability to float in midair. I think that's quite cute.
Yeah, we're getting into the
It,
actual like
yeah.
lore of it as a Pokemon now.
And also I like how it says apparently, so it's like this could be true, or it could just be like a little bit of a myth around it. Like I like that mysteriousness. I like that it's retained that.
Yeah,
Um, Silver is sticking to the theme here. Its adorable behavior and cry make it highly popular. However, this cute Pokemon is rarely found.
mm,
Um, Crystal I like because again, it's quite mysterious. Like, so it says, though rarely seen, it becomes easier to spot for some reason on the night of a full moon. Like, it hints at a mystery there. Like, I
yeah,
would really like it if they'd sort of done more with Clefairy both like in the games and the show to like make it feel like elusive and special the way it has here.
yeah.
Stay go on.
I don't know if they did do this, but like that there should suggest that similar to Noctowl, you shouldn't be able to catch it until it's on the night cycle.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I think that makes sense.
yeah.
Um Stadium 2 has copied Gold's homework again. Ruby and Sapphire is very cute, and oh, on every night of a full moon, groups of this Pokemon come out to play. When dawn arrives, the tired Clefairy return to their quiet mountain retreats and go to sleep nestled up against each other. Like,
Oh,
isn't that a vibe? Isn't that just the life that you want to live?
yeah. I am genuinely getting a feeling that like the makers of Pokemon must actually have quite a lot of fondness for Clefairy.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
Like, I feel like, yeah, Safa said at least not bullying this Pokemon. Like, and it's not. It's like, this is clearly very affectionate.
yeah, like
Emerald is,
we don't get this for every Pokemon. Some of them
nope.
are just like it's got legs and that's it.
It's got big ears. And a horn. No, so Emerald's basically the same as Ruby and Sapphire. Fire Red is the same, is basically the same as like yellow. Leaf Green, basically the same as red. Diamond has thought to live with others on quiet mountains. It is popular for its adorable nature. So here they don't even know if it lives in the mountains.
Mm.
Um, Pearl I quite like. It flies using the wings on its back to collect moonlight. This Pokemon is difficult to find. I would like more information about what they mean by collect moonlight. I don't
Yeah.
think that's a tangible thing that you can collect. Platinum's very cute though. It is said that happiness will come to those who see a gathering of clefairy dancing under a full moon. I would like it if that was like a mechanic in the games. Like if you see the clefairy, then like get some good luck. Like you get like some bonuses or something.
Yeah, or you're
Uh,
like, the Pokemon that require friendship, like it boosts their
yeah,
points up.
yeah. Heart Gold and Soul Silver are the same as Gold and Silver. Black and White uh is the same as Platinum. Black 2 and White 2 have on nights with a full moon, Clefairy gather and dance from all over. Gather from all over and dance. Bathing in moonlight makes them float. Cute.
So we got
Uh,
confirmation then about the floating.
so X is the same as Platinum. Y is the same as Pearl. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are the same as Ruby and Sapphire. I like Sun. I like Sun. Its adorable behavior and appearance make it popular with men and women, young and old. Its numbers are few, however. So I like that it's like trying to lean away from the gendered stereotype of the pink fairy
Yeah,
Pokemon being girls and being like, no, everyone likes this Pokemon. Shut the fuck up.
yeah,
But also acknowledging that like it's still elusive.
yeah,
Um, I like moon as well. On nights with a full moon, they gather together and dance. The surrounding area is enveloped in abnormal magnetic field, which again, I think would make a really fun game mechanic.
yeah,
Like
totally.
on the nights when Clefairy happen to appear, like that's when your electric type Pokemon are also like overpowered or something.
Yeah,
Like that's when Pokemon that need to be near like the electric lodestone rock evolve, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Like I think that'd be really cool.
yeah.
Um if they could like factor that in somehow. Um, as you know, the games get a bit more open world and creative.
Mm.
Um, Ultra Sun, they're popular, but they're rare. Trainers who show them off recklessly may be targeted by thieves. Again, very cool, but like, why didn't I see more of this in the game? Like, if
Yeah,
you like, there should be people who are like, oh, there's no point fighting you. I'm looking for a Clefairy. Like that would be cool. Maybe I don't read the dialogue enough, but I don't remember that happening, and I feel like it really could.
yeah, like you
Uh,
could totally turn these into mechanics. You've got Clefairy in your team, you're more likely to get Team Rocket encounters.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That'd be so cool. Ultra Moon has bathed in moonlight. Its wings grow faintly. Without even flapping, Clefairy rises into the air where it dances around. That's cute. That's nice.
Yeah.
Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is the same as Yellow. Sword and Shield are the same as X and Y. No,
Oh,
they're the same as they're X and Soul Silver.
normally they're not that
Um,
lazy. Normally Sword and Shield's got like a decent one for us.
yeah. Um, Brilliant Diamond is the same as Diamond. Shining Pearl is not the same as Pearl, but I think it's similar to something. It's similar to Red. Moonlight gathers on the wings on Clefairy's back, allowing Clefairy to fly. The Pokemon is difficult to find, so it's not telling me anything new, but I don't think it's quite word for word the same as any others.
Yeah.
Legends Arceus says it can be found in quiet mountain areas on a full moon's night. Its dancing and its tiny, faintly glowing wings confer upon it a lovely fairy-like quality. That's very cute.
Yeah.
Um, Scarlet has the same as Moon. No, it doesn't. It has the same as something. It has the same as Black 2 and White 2. And Violet has the same as Moon. So a fair bit of repeated information there.
Yeah.
But I feel like it does combine to give quite a full picture of what Clefairy is like in the wild. And I think generally I prefer the Pokedex entries that are about the Pokemon in the wild. They feel a bit more, they just feel nicer. They feel like this is a scientist observing like a Pokemon rather than like this is someone like, like observing it and doing field work much more than just like capturing it and poking it and prodding it and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I think that I prefer in general, and I feel like these combine to give a pretty well-rounded image, even if
Yeah.
it was a fair bit of repeated information. But I do feel like underserved in the sense that I would have liked to have seen this information reflected more in like the actual gameplay.
Yes. Well, I must admit, I don't know if you were doing the same, but like as we were reading that, I was like, I the thing I appreciated was the lore reason for the de-emphasis of clefairy, which I feel like we've never seen before. Um, like this couldn't be the mascot because they're so rare, really.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I guess they'd have to give it like give Ash a new story as to like getting his first Pokemon.
mm,
Like, because Professor Oak probably wouldn't give away a Pokemon so rare. Um, but like I could totally see it being like, well, there all of like it could be a fun, interesting thing where like loads of people have Pikachu because they're really common. Loads of people have Squirtle, Charmander, and Bulbasaur because they're the ones every trainer gets. But like only Ash has a Clefairy, and I feel like that would have made for a really interesting angle for like the narrative of the overarching series.
yeah, and it would have given more of validity to Team Rocket.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Instead of having to come up with this, like, no, this Pikachu is special.
Yeah, it's like no, these are just really, really rare, and it's like, well, Giovanni would be like, well, yeah, go after it then.
Yeah.
Um, right, shall we have a look at its Smogon?
Let's do that. Let's
Okay,
do that.
so there they are. I like their in-game sprite. I like the fact that they've got the little arms just kind of wobbling about as if it doesn't have elbows.
Hmm.
Uh, so
Hmm.
it's single type fairy. Now I was somewhat expecting it to be normal fairy type. So that is
Yeah, its normal typing got retconned, which is rare because normally they do just double up the type. But I quite like that because it means that it did lose its weaknesses. Like obviously it gained new ones, but because like it's now resistant to fighting, whereas when it was normal type, it would have been weak to fighting. So losing that resistance gives it a bit more of a oomph, like makes it a bit more of an interesting Pokemon to want to put on your team, I think.
so if you trade like I don't know if this is possible, but if you trade like a Clefairy from a game that doesn't have fairy type to a game that doesn't have fairy type, like does it lose its like what happens to its like fairy type
Yeah.
moves, like what happens?
So I haven't traded moves but Pokemon between generation in a while. But if it's anything like it was, in the early generations, like the game that you're trading it from will flag it as like I think it will lose its fairy typing and you can't trade anything with a move that doesn't exist in the older game.
Yeah.
Like because I remember trading between like gold and red, and there's like the lady in the Pokemon Center who lets you through to the trading section goes like you can't take that Pokemon through. Like you can't, and it like scans. It's like right, this won't scan.
Right. Cool.
So obviously, I assume the newer games have a much less clunky way of doing that, but they still do basically that.
Yeah. So we've got here its abilities are cute charm, 30% chance of infatuating the Pokemon opposite gender.
Mm-hmm.
Magic Guard. This Pokemon can only be damaged by direct attacks. Oh, I bet that's useful.
Yeah.
And Friend Guard. This Pokemon's allies receive 3/4 damage from other Pokemon attacks. So that'd be good for double battles. Um,
Yeah, it's definitely feels like the kind of Pokemon that is, yeah, useful for sort of strategic group battles. And I feel like that again, um, in my mind, links it with like Chansey because like Chansey is the healing Pokemon. Like it's tanky and it's got all these other things, but its signature moves are about like healing the rest of your team.
yeah. And this is called PU in terms of its like ranking. I don't know what the P stands for. I'm trying to work out what the P stands for. Um, uh, but yeah, so it's in something called the PU class, which is the 5th class. But it's still like above. It's still above like never used, so it must be decent, which lends into Clefable's like in terms of them probably bigging it up soon as being a bit of a
Yeah.
beast. Okay, so let's see what it says. As a result of Clefairy's solid, EVO-light augmented bulk and access to reliable recovery in soft-boiled, Clefairy is capable of functioning as an effective check to many threatening special attackers such as Rotom F, Silvally Dragon, and Clefairy also has access to stellar defensive abilities such as Magic Guard, which blocks all forms of passive damage, making it immune to entry hazards and allowing it to act as a status absorber, which is partially useful for calm mindsets. On top of this, Clefairy boasts an amazing support move pool with moves such as Knock Off, Stealth Rock, and Thunder Rave in its arsenal, making Clefairy one of the few Pokemon in the tier to have both Stealth Rock and Recovery. Unfortunately, Clefairy is heavily reliant on its EVO Light to check most special attackers due to it otherwise below average bulk, making it vulnerable to knockoff and thus shaky as a dark type check. Even with EVO Light intact, Clefairy is unfortunately unable to reliably switch into many of the stronger special attackers in the tier, such as Aurorus, Jellicent, and Drampa, and struggles against strong physical attackers such as Stoutland and Golurk as a result of its poor physical bulk. In addition, Clefairy's passive nature and fairy typing unfortunately leaves it helpless against a variety of threatening wall breakers such as Victreebel and Aggron, often giving these Pokemon free entry. As a result, Clefairy is largely restricted to bulkier, more defensive teams where these weaknesses can be patched up. Now that's like the best one of these that we've read for, I'd say, at least 7-8 Pokemon now.
Yeah, definitely. And also I feel like it's very comprehensive in acknowledging how once it became fairy type, it got tanky, even though it already had kind of not bad stats for like what it was in Gen 1. And how it compares to kind of like basically all of the things referenced that are like that can beat it are things that came in way later
Yeah.
that I feel like came in very specifically to be able to counter fairy types so they weren't overpowered.
Yeah. But I bet you, if you were to ask the common like Pokemon fan, oh, do you think that Clefairy is going to have is going to be the one that has like the decent write up and that people like want to use like offensively in the meta? Most people would say, nah, I reckon that's going to be like way lower than like when we had like Nidorina and it was basically do not use this.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like especially for not fully evolved Pokemon, it's got a lot more detail than I anticipated it would.
And again, I don't know about yourself, but as we were reading through the decks, I was like, right, I'm already feeling like this is going to get a better Trubbish rating than I anticipated it would going into this episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I'm probably going to give this a 6.
Yeah, I would also give it a solid 6 because I think I really like the detail that you get about Clefairy's kind of like social life in the wild, while also keeping its air of mystery about it. But I do feel like it loses a few points because I would so like to see some of this mysterious energy pull through into the games more. And I feel like I say that all the time. And I also have already acknowledged that that you can't build that much. But then they can because like they build all of these like hidden abilities and shit. So they can do it in battle. Why can't they do it in the overworld? Like it's very possible.
Yeah.
I would like them to like put that effort in and show the way that like the Pokemon influence the world around them.
Yeah.
A bit more.
Like this here is genuinely the first one that I've been like I know we've been going through like a lot of the big hitters, but like this is the first one that I've been like, okay, I feel like I have had my mind changed a little bit by this, and it's like if I do a replay of Pokemon Let's Go, like I
Yeah,
may
I'll get a
well,
clefairy.
yeah, like I feel like it has made a very, very good case for me getting one now.
Hmm.
But let's see what happens with the Clefable episode.
Absolutely.